Imagine, if you will, a bagel. Now imagine a second bagel. Because if there were to be one bagel, there ought to be a second. These two bagels both come from the same package of bagels. This package contains 6 bagels, totaling 3 instances of bagel-based enjoyment. But although these bagels will emerge from the same plastic vessel, these bagels are not the same. They are, in fact, 6 wholly distinct beings of condensed bread. The wanton slashing of some assuredly automated slicing machine with reckless disregard for consistency would resign each of these 6 bread beings to vastly different fates. The permutations of bagel quality are all but endless, so, for the sake of brevity, we shall examine only 2 of these permutations. One bagel would be sliced closer to the top, leaving a thinner upper portion and a robust lower portion. This is a good bagel. The wanton slashing bifurcated the second bagel in such a way that left a more substantial upper portion and a diminutive lower portion. This bagel is trash. A brief interjection to inform the unenlightened. The anatomy of a bagel would seem to be so obvious that explanation is unnecessary, but the existence of dullards oftentimes necessitates the explanation of the obvious. So, it would seem prudent to do exactly that at this point. Bagels have 2 portions, the upper portion and the lower portion. The upper portion is round, while the lower portion is flat. Bagels are always cut in half, thereby creating bagel segments. If a bagel is not cut in half, it is just a mediocre donut. Bagel segments are assessed by 2 metrics: whether or not the segment is derived from the upper portion or the lower portion, and the thickness of the segment. Upper portions are more desirable than lower portions, and a thinner segment is more desirable than a thicker segment. Segment thickness is weighted twice as much as segment portion when assessing the overall quality of a bagel. A thin upper portion is the ideal bagel segment, while a thick lower portion is the worst bagel segment. We return now to the subject of our previous observation, the good bagel and the trash bagel. All 4 segments are separated and ready to be toasted and dressed. The process of toasting a bagel is entirely uninteresting and not worth describing in detail. Just toast the fucking bagel. Where the real intrigue lies is in the application of the schmear. The good bagel and the trash bagel have both been toasted. The upper portion of the good bagel is immaculately crisp, while the lower portion is a testament to inadequacy. Its glory was sacrificed for the perfection of its counterpart. It is this upper portion that will receive the most attentive application of the schmear. Not too much, but not too little. The lower portion will be covered in layer upon layer of topping in an attempt to mask the blatant shortcomings. Now we move on to the trash bagel. The upper portion of the bagel is much too girthy, all potential for greatness squandered by some overzealous robotic cutting machine. This does, however, give an opportunity for the lower portion of the bagel to prove its worth. It is now this section that will receive the favorable application of smear, while the once promising upper portion is relegated to the depraved slathering that is typically reserved for lower portion chaff. With all segments now toasted and schmeared, it is prudent now to discuss the totality of the bagel eating experience. Based on one's own proclivities for delayed gratification, the order of ingestion will obviously vary to some degree. Unless an individual is not but a walking id, incapable of even a modicum of self-restraint, the 2 thicker segments and the thinner bottom segment will obviously be eaten first, leaving the thin upper segment for last. It is reasonable to sup upon the thinner bottom section first, as the relative quality of the segment can be increased by the hunger of the individual. Following this method, two thicker segments will be eaten in any order, and the perfect thin upper portion will be eaten last, as to bookend the experience. Another reasonable method would be to eat the two chaff segments in an attempt to get them out of the way and enjoy the latter half of bagel consumption unmolested. The only truly unacceptable way to order ingestion of bagel segments is to eat the thin upper segment first. This methodology is wholly unacceptable in polite society and is internationally considered a war crime.